It is the safety committee meeting, and appreciate everybody attending. So with that, we'll open with citizen concerns.
Let Jim take it away.
Oh, okay.
If you would give your name and address, please.
10741 Avenue Road. I'm glad to be back. I know you didn't expect me to sit here quietly. Minor concern, and I'm guessing there's probably nothing that can be done about it, but I just, in the last month, I have been passed on different boundary streets 4 times now. First time down south boundary, some girl decided she didn't want to go 25, which I was going, and passed me on a double yellow in front of Frank's school. Second one occurred, it was a legal pass. It was coming up Findlay to Indiana. Anyway, I was doing 25. This lady went around me, so I watched. Yeah, it was an emergency. She pulled into the hair salon in Louisiana and Indiana. Last week, again, this one was a little more, I won't say tragic, but had potential for it. Going down Front Street must have been on a Monday because the garbage pickup. Anyway, the garbage truck was up ahead. One of the street trucks was behind it, just happened to be. Some lady got tired of waiting and passed, and I could see the oncoming traffic that had to brake as she jumped in ahead of the garbage truck. The garbage truck had 2 more houses before it would have been done with Front Street. I'm just a little concerned that either, I don't know if there's a lack of enforcement or people are becoming more intolerant of impatient and not waiting, and I don't know what, if anything, could be done. My only thought is, and I had mentioned this to Mark because I had approached him, that I don't know if there's a way to set up with the police department that private citizens can call in with complaints, given a car's license plate in time. You know, and I understand the police are more than busy, they don't need anything more, but I wonder if there's some way to set something up just like so that if people are reported, that they get a friendly call saying, hey, well, on a certain date you were observed doing this, we'd appreciate it if you didn't. And again, I don't get into privacy issues, but I also think that if you go back, I remember 15 years ago, the Messenger used to publish names along with traffic offenses, et cetera. And I know they dropped doing that. Again, privacy concerns, but I'm not about shaming people. I'm not saying I want to be on that list at some point, but I'm just getting, it seems to me, and again, maybe I'm getting old, but it seems to me that there's a whole lot more of it going on than what I remember there used to be. And I just thought I'd bring it to your attention at this point. So that's all I had tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. So are you informed enough, Bridget, to actually comment about what we could do? Or because certainly if there was somebody who was swerving, weaving.
If they are observed by the police can pull them over. If they are not observed by the police and the police gets a phone call, the police can't do anything about that because the police have to observe that behavior. They could go out to that area and see if they can find the car, see if that behavior is being exhibited, and then make the decision on whether it qualifies for them to pull over that car. But to see somebody swerve out and around, crossing a double yellow line, you know, in front of a garbage truck, if that behavior is not seen by the police officer, there's nothing the police officer can do about it. They can't follow up after the fact and give a citation. You know, could they give a friendly warning? Perhaps, but how does the police officer know that actually happened? So it is difficult, because is it getting worse? Probably. I'm one of those people that drive 25, so people try to pass me all the time. But I don't know that there's anything specific that can be done.
Bus drivers can do it, though. Can bus drivers report people that pass them when?
They have a special exemption.
They do, okay.
And ironically, many of the bus drivers also don't follow the rules and will angle their bus across a double yellow line, thinking they're protecting the children.
Oh.
But actually what's happening is if somebody strikes that school bus, they're the ones who will get cited.
Yes, that's okay.
And we've reported that numerous times to the school. Still happens, though.
Is it, and again, because I don't know the legal issues and stuff, because more and more people, I don't have one currently, If you have a dash cam, if you have video evidence of somebody doing something,
I think it has to be the
Can it be
police's dash
presented?
cam. I don't think it can be a,
Not for, to,
to cite
in
someone.
my entire 15 years of experience, I never had a traffic citation that was not observed and testified to by the officer themselves.
And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the reason the traffic cams were thrown out in Ohio is because they were not being
They're not being
vetted
manned by police officers.
by police officers?
Correct. Yeah, it's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
It's the same with just people
frustrations, yeah.
speeding
Yeah,
in general. Even if they're not passing illegally, are they speeding? Perhaps. But unless the officer witnesses that happening, we don't have anything to go by.
And that Indiana being closed down, and I go out Echo Junction, and those people are not doing 40. I might have been doing like 39-ish, and the person in front of me, I couldn't even catch. They were doing at least 50 miles an hour down that road, and there's the Y in the school. So I wish we could almost go back to hiring dedicated traffic cops. That's just me.
And they just have to be at the right place at the right time.
Exactly, and anyways.
well, and again, and I didn't know if there was, if there was a way to create a database, if people could report incidents, and if it was common in a certain area at a certain time, then officers or somebody would know where to go to possibly crack down on some of this. But again, it required reporting by private citizens to someplace that could compile that.
It's creating of a,
And again, I guess if somebody smarter than me could set it up on YouTube or Facebook or something, and you could set up a page to record stuff, but I don't want to get into, he said, she said, and this stuff, but I don't have an answer, but I'm just frustrated with people going around me all the time and, not obeying the traffic rules.
I would agree that I think there's an aggression that we're seeing that we never used to. I would agree with that. Bridget, Kate, the security, safety people, guards that we have at crossings in the morning for schools, afternoons, do they have any capacity for reporting?
I mean, they could report, but again, there's nothing, I don't think that would lend our police officers to issue a citation.
No, I understand, and it's more of a database collection. Hey, we're having this issue on South Boundary.
I mean, I could certainly ask the chief. I mean, that's only in a limited number of locations, like Front Street, they wouldn't be on Front Street unless they happen to be at Elm Street. And we have crossing guards on Elm Street, and there'll be people who run the red light. I mean, they're distracted drivers or impatient drivers.
So they don't have the school bus, what you call it, a school bus exemption or a school bus driver? What do you call that?
I called it an exemption. You would still have an officer who would testify in that matter, but I do know that school bus drivers are allowed to report people in for violating.
And I can follow up with Chief Jones on that.
And we
Just
can-
curious.
We can find out the specifics of how that works. To be perfectly honest, it's been a long time since I had to do traffic tickets. So I don't want to speak to something that,
We're going to refresh you then.
yeah.
And
I
I'll
have to
learn
do a
something
little
new.
Refreshing of my recollection, so to speak, to be able to speak to that. Or I'm
Very
going
good.
to phone a friend and call China and say, hey, how does that work?
But yeah, we can certainly talk through these notions that Mr. Hagan just gave with the police chief and report back via email or at the next committee meeting.
Good.
I don't want to make light of it at all because it's very serious, but I just keep thinking that Mayberry, that Andy Griffith scene where Gomer did a citizen's arrest on Barney, so.
You
It'd be
see
nice, so we can
citizen
remember
arrest,
that.
I think of Cardi Finkbeiner.
It sounds like something Gomer would do, though.
Yeah, citizen's arrest, yeah, so
Which
I just, we could
is
do
not
it.
a-
I wish we could go back to that citizen's arrest.
It does come down to people policing other people and,
Yeah, and what's tragic when something happens, then maybe they think of something else to do. But we're tied by the law here, and I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, all of those general offenses, traffic offenses, you know, the goal is voluntary compliance.
Yeah.
And you get quite a bit of voluntary compliance. And unfortunately, people learn a lesson the hard way when an accident happens,
Sure.
which could cause loss of life or property.
But again, there's not a law we can draft in the world that can guarantee that somebody isn't an idiot and does something wrong, like happened in Sylvania all those years ago, and goes around a school bus on the inside and kills a child. I mean, there's just not, if somebody wants to be a stupid driver and decide that their day is more important than a child's, they can do that. And it's the after effect that we have to deal with.
And you know something else, Bridget? Speaking of boundary, I've already noticed since Mr. Freeze has been open, people are crossing all those lanes to turn left in there,
Yes.
and they're turning left out of there. They're ignoring those signs completely.
Yes, our officers are trying to be more in that area at popular times, but of course, it's, you know, does it happen when we're not there? Absolutely.
Yeah,
think
I
that's
witnessed
trying
it
to look into
myself,
that.
and I went, oh my God,
They
look what
didn't
she
really-
just did.
They didn't redo the drive entrance, did they? Put an island
Yes.
to make it force
Yes.
them. That-
Yes.
It is a right in, right out, but they kind of go around it. Yeah,
Just
I'm
like
not-
the people that do a U-turn on the divergent diamond.
oh my.
Yeah,
Oh my God, really?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen them do that.
Jonathan has witnessed it several times.
I've seen it.
Oh,
Yes.
While he was running.
Me while I was driving.
I was driving too when I saw it.
But yeah, we will follow up with this committee on what is possible and what is just out of our hands.
We would appreciate the information.
Thank you.
And we always appreciate citizens' input, even when we can't necessarily address it.
Yeah, we can't.
I will learn something in the, well, I'll
But
learn something in the.
it gets it out there, you know, just by you staying up, even knowing we can't do a whole lot, but you're getting awareness.
So if there are no objections, will the minutes stand approved?
Oh, objections here?
Number 2. All right, no objections, 3-0 or 2-0, since I can't introduce them.
Oh, okay.
I believe that's the case.
If,
no, you guys are fine, no objection.
yeah, if you would like, I can just start talking about item number 3.
We're right there.
3A and 3B. I'll take 3B first, it's a little bit easier. So tomorrow, we will be submitting to City Council the formal application request from Levis Commons that was given to the mayor a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And we have reviewed it, and we have made a recommendation to the mayor. The mayor will be forwarding that application to City Council tomorrow. That application will be very, very similar to the very first application that was brought to City Council by Levis Commons several years ago. It will look stunningly similar. So that is coming your way. It essentially has all the same operation hours as the current downtown Dora. And they'll have the appropriate signage, they'll have the appropriate cups, they'll have sanitation, safety. It'll be very similar from what the council as a whole saw a couple years ago. So we're happy to bring that to you. Yes, Ms. Matroni?
Is that the same size as it was when it was brought to us originally?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the intent, same size.
I thought that was an issue, one of the issues.
There were different council members who
Ah.
perhaps had different opinions, but yet when the passage happened of the downtown Dora, those same issues weren't addressed in that application.
I was one of the ones with the issues back then because it was so new. I'll admit, it was so new to me, and I was, you know, very concerned about it.
We
This
didn't
is
know
before
what we
it was-
didn't know.
it was still, right, you didn't know what you didn't know, and then you have, you know, that much time, like Bridget said, it was several years ago. It's been proven that it's really has not caused a problem, even on the size. That's why
Yeah, no, I'm
in
talking
favor
about
of
Levis
expanding the
Commons. The
downtown.
Levis Commons, not this.
I know, I understand, that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, the Levis Commons, but I was here when we voted on that.
Yeah,
And I was really worried about the geographical 14 acres of it or something that they were, maybe more than that, I can't remember how
I
big it
think
was.
that, yeah,
It's
I
huge.
don't remember off the top of my head.
it's pretty much all of it.
88. But now I just think that it's been proven that it's hasn't really become a problem.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So then the second application that will be coming to City Council tomorrow through the mayor is an application that was put together by myself, Kate Sandretto, and Chief Jones. And that is an application to expand the existing downtown Doris footprints, essentially along the lines that was discussed at a safety committee meeting, I believe, a couple meetings ago, looking in general to go from Fifth to Front, Elm to Walnuts, with perhaps a little extension out towards the river down Louisiana Avenue. And that will encompass a couple other permit holders that would be able to participate in DORA immediately and in the near future when we have another restaurant opening up over on 3rd Street. We feel the boundaries are very manageable. The chief likes, as he mentioned, I think in here, he likes squares and rectangles. It conforms to that. We've chatted with several of the larger property owners that would be within that district. So far, we've had no negative feedback. That includes the school property, the corner property of Perry's Landing, as well as Way Library. And there has been no pushback to date from that. They understand that there obviously has to be a public hearing, and they're more than welcome to come to that public hearing and air any concerns or thoughts. So again, that's coming to you as a council tomorrow. One of the things we do want to ask you tonight, though, to opine on, those of that can opine, is we have to have city council approve a schedule in which to advertise the public notifications, put that there, as well as set a public hearing date. So we understand from various council members that there is some, I won't say lack of concern, but there seems to be a consensus just based on discussions that I've heard at city council meetings, and that there's been a notion of trying to expedite the expansion of the downtown DORA. Unfortunately, we cannot expedite the process. The process is set by the code, state code, but what we can do is make a request to city council that they do not take the full allotted time period in which to approve or deny these applications. So our suggestion is these two applications move along in tandem so that we don't get caught up in two different schedules, which will drive everybody crazy a little bit. So what we're asking at the April 5th council meeting is that administration be allowed to publish that word there, publish on the 11th and 18th, the required public hearing, required public notice notification that an application has come to city council for a DORA. And then select May 3rd, which would be the first council meeting in May, as your public hearing date, having that prior to city council. Then we would go ahead and do the notice on the 11th and 18th of April. You would have the public hearing on May 3rd. And then state code requires that no sooner than 30 days after the first publication notice is when council can approve or deny. So after May 10th, you could approve or deny that application at any time, but you must approve it within 60 days of that initial application date, which would be June 9th. Our recommendation would be to approve or deny that application at the council meeting on May 17th. This does not necessarily allot for the fact that that council may want it to go back to safety committee or another committee, but given that we have the whole month of April, you could send it if you wanted to any of the committees and it wouldn't disrupt this timeline. But that is our recommendation. I don't know if safety wants to make a recommendation to move that recommendation forward to city council, or if you'd just like to discuss it at city council. Because what we could do, if that's the case, we could certainly attach with the application and the letter from the mayor a recommended timeline. So all the council members would have the opportunity to look at that timeline prior to that next city council meeting.
Thoughts?
We're all looking at you, Barry.
Well,
No, that's.
Barry's hands are tied.
The timeline, and that gives us time to tweak anything we want, like we did last time.
And I'm glad you're not expediting it, because two thoughts come to mind when you say that. One, we're trying to ram something through, and the other one is we're trying to hide something. So I'm glad that decision was not taken.
Yeah, we were just looking at leaning towards the side of the 30 days rather than the 60 days. But again, if city council has a different desire or wish, that's city council's desire or wish.
I would defer to whatever you guys want to do is fine with me.
So first of all, I would just want to say, thanks to the administration for actually helping the downtown develop their plan. Because there are a wide variety of small businesses that weren't necessarily going to get it done quickly and maybe effectively, like maybe the administration helped them with. So they would not be at this point without your help. So thank you for doing that. I think the general consensus, as having talked to various council members, they're in general support of this. And unless there are particular concerns the administration thinks we should know about or address.
I can say, to this point, I have not had a phone call on any concern with the existing door.
Nor have I.
You would know. You would get them.
I would, yeah, I seem to, yeah, probably would.
So
Or Jonathan.
and so one of the questions that was posed, are we ready just this, as a committee, just to allow this to go to council without any further review? And I am.
I am too.
Okay.
I am. I do have a question. How about our couple of roadblocks? I know you said the library was in favor. How about the school? We still have to wait for the school board?
Has not made any opposition, and the school superintendent has spoken with at least 4 school board members, and there is no opposition, and he is actually emailing that information to Chief Jones. So
Wonderful.
as soon as we have that, we can also include that with the application. If it comes after we submit the application to council, we'll follow up with that.
And I would just ask you to keep in mind that just because we put a property in Adora, it doesn't require that that property participate in Adora.
I
So
understand.
the library has the right to put up post signs and say, private property, no Dora cups allowed. And the school has the right to put up signs and say, private property, no Dora cups allowed. So just because the boundary goes the way it goes, does not mean that the Dora cups have to be allowed on that grassy knoll, for lack of a better term. And so I think that's important to remember when it comes to the school, that if the school gets pushback, they can just say, okay, no, we'll just post signs that say no Dora here.
Can they be selective about it? For example,
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
they could-
'cause
Just the green
it's their
space.
property.
no, let's say the library puts up signs, but then they're having a fundraiser where they have alcohol. They could take them down for that one.
They could take the DORA signs down for any occasion that they wanted to.
Okay,
But what you
that's
have to
all.
remember is a DORA, in a private event, certain other rules apply
Right.
if you have a DORA, so they would have to comply with all rules. A DORA cup wouldn't necessarily be able to wander
But, yeah,
into
but
a fenced-off event.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But they could choose to allow DORA cups on a Friday, but not allow DORA cups at what used to be the Harrison Rally Day.
Right, or like, say the school says, we don't have a problem with Dora cups coming down during the car show, but
Right.
only during the car shows.
Correct.
Be okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
And then just one other thing I wanted to point out is if city council approves either the applications, both the applications, those then have to go to state and they have to give the final blessing. So even though you would pass it on whatever day you may pass it, it may be it actually won't be in effect until the state blesses it. And then we also have to do work on our end, and Levis Common has to do work on their end, in that we have to get signs, we have to reinstall signs, move signs, in order for everything to be ready to go, and we would then announce what the actual effective date was. We've been working with Levis Commons, and they're kind of targeting sometime towards, if this all goes smoothly, the beginning of July, because again, they have to order cups, get marketing materials, get signs, get them installed, so they have some work to do on their end as well. And not knowing what if there's a sign shortage, a cup shortage, who knows?
Paint
So-
shortage.
And
But that would be the
Levis
process.
has a lot less impact on our service, on our city services too.
Correct, they are very self-sufficient.
They have their own security.
Yeah.
So that is the DORA update.
So if I heard my colleagues, then move this forward to city council on the 5th.
We will do so, and Chief Jones was supposed to be here, just so you know, we didn't kick him out, but he was under the weather today, so he thought he'd stay away just in case he was contagious.
I tried to send him home yesterday and he wasn't listening.
Well, he did get to speak on the One Ohio already.
Right.
Okay, I apologize that I was not at city council last week. I was under the weather, but not with, I didn't give it to Chief Jones. So as you are aware, there is a One Ohio MOU regarding settlements for opioid lawsuits in the state of Ohio. Settlements from 2021 and settlements that are expected in 2022. And the One Ohio MOU essentially signs us on and says, okay, we agree to how these settlements will be dispersed. We will participate in a regional government for dispersal of these funds. We will, from that regional government, we will elect someone to be on the state government, and we agree that this portion that you're saying you'll dole out, we think that's fair. We'll sign on to this. You all, prior to my presence here, looked at this in 2020, and nobody remembers this. And Resolution 14, 2020 was this exact same MOU, and it did not pass. And I don't ever want to have you all think that I mislead you when I bring things back. I have in the legislative summary the minutes from that city council meeting where it did not pass. I believe that it did not pass at the time based on having read the minutes because council members felt they were being rushed to vote for the resolution and they didn't want to be rushed. You all were there, so.
I wasn't in 20, but
2 out of 3 of you were there.
it's up there with that.
So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that fact because I always want to be as open and obvious with you as I possibly can be, that this came up before and now it's back.
I'm well aware of why I voted no. One of the reasons why I voted no is because they're only partly to blame for the problem. The other half is the state legislature, which loosened opiate prescription laws back in the 90s. And if we're going to make them pay, shouldn't the government, state government, pay us for our problems?
Well, I know some people would say the ACA started doing, how much pain are you in? And so that opened up things, well, I feel pain, so you just give them more opioids. So I think there's a lot of blame to go all the way across the board.
Until that law was, until they eased up restrictions, it was very restrictive on how the doctors could prescribe opiates. And the state legislature pretty much said, we're not doctors, and we'll just let them make that decision.
So the first piece of legislation before you this evening is the resolution that would accept the Ohio memorandum, the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding. You were provided with a digital copy of the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding, and both tonight, today, and last Tuesday to review. And this is simply a resolution that accepts that memorandum, that MUO. The second piece of legislation before you, and I apologize, Region 17 is highlighted only because I wanted 4 or 5 other people in the administration to confirm with me I had the right region, and I forgot to highlight it before I made copies for you guys, is that we are agreeing that we've already we adopt the MOU first, and then the mechanism for the settlement proceeds is the governments and regions, and that for us would be Region 17. We are agreeing to participate in Region 17. The third piece of legislation before you will also go to finance, so even if you advance the first 2 to City Council for Tuesday, I'd ask that you just advance the third one to finance. It's an ordinance that establishes a One Ohio fund. We are required by law, most of the time, sometimes they make exceptions, to create new accounts for revenues because specific revenues have to go into specific accounts. This creates the One Ohio Fund account for finance to put the funds into and guarantees that those funds will then only be spent on items that are eligible under the Memorandum of Understanding that the first piece of legislation has you sign on to. Are there any questions?
You still have the same concerns that you had last time?
I don't. I would express one.
No, we were given a better timeline
Right.
this time, so, yeah. And that really has nothing to do with our belief in the person presenting as much as it is absorption, right? So this is the second time
Well,
back.
March of 2020 got really interesting for about a million reasons because of COVID, so I could see where you all went, what?
We didn't remember, the police chief didn't remember.
Nobody
Or
remembered,
not remember.
like,
I don't.
administration had blocked this from their memory just because of when the timing was, with
Yeah.
when the fact that the city shut down.
There's a lot else going
And there was
on.
just so much else going on at the time.
We all thought we were gonna die.
I mean,
Yes.
nobody knew, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, right,
It
right.
was just so much uncertainty, yeah.
I am curious, how much money did we give up by not accepting this?
We didn't give up any money yet.
Okay. So it's,
It's taken them so long to negotiate everything that now it's just coming to fruition.
okay. So that was a little premature back in March of 20 then.
I think only in the sense that they hadn't even reached settlements yet, and they've reached some of the settlements now. But no, to the best of my knowledge, nobody's received any funds from this at all yet.
Wasn't it still making its way through the court system too?
Yeah, they didn't do
Yeah.
settlements until.
Right.
The first set of settlements was 2021.
Right. That's what I thought. I don't have any, I stated how I felt. I don't have any objections.
I'm
So
fine.
that would be 3-0. And now,
Okay,
on-
so we're
on all
taking the
three?
two resolutions to
Well,
city
two.
council, and we're sending the ordinance to finance.
third one goes to finance.
Thank you.
We have to clear everything through March.
Oh, yes, thank you. I got the purse strings here.
Really, I just like to make it clear, so poor Angela isn't looking back at the minutes and going, what did they say?
Again? That only happens at planning and zoning.
You have it, don't you? You got it down.
Had to watch the video twice.
Yes, I bet.
Okay, thank you all.
All right. Is there any other business that we'd like?
I have one thing I'd like to ask. I was approached by a citizen that just had a concern. I thought she might be here tonight to speak on it, but I'll ask on her behalf, and maybe you can give me a better explanation than I was able to give her. But she came in to the municipal building for a matter, and then was surprised to see we had a police officer sitting out there at the security post, and just wondered why we would have a full-time police officer rather than possibly a part-time. And I did my best to explain it, but I know our safety director and our law director can probably explain it much
As
better.
the law director for the city of Perrysburg, I would like to point out that all matters involving security are not public record matters. So if you would like to have this discussion, I would ask that you go into executive session, because security matters for the building are protected and not public record information,
Oh, okay.
which is a section I was unaware of previously, which is why I'm asking if you'd like to have this discussion and ask that you request to go into executive session.
It makes total sense.
I don't think our committee needs the discussion. I was just trying to get an answer for a citizen that was just curious, is this a position, just that the position of the person sitting out there, could that be done by someone that gets paid less, maybe perhaps a bailiff of some sort or somebody in that pay range rather than a full-time police officer taking a,
Ironically, I think a bailiff gets paid more than our police officers.
yeah, I.
In our court system,
Yeah.
just for the record.
Okay.
But, I mean, just briefly, that person that is out there at any given time, that is not a full-time assignment for any one individual. That is rotated in and out throughout the day, first shift, second shift, in like 4-hour increments. That is not it's an assignment, it's not a position. Just as a detective is an assignment, a school resource officer is an assignment. It is not a dedicated position for one person. And could it be done by somebody that is not a City of Perrysburg police officer, perhaps as long as they were OPATA certified, and also were capable of acting as a law enforcement officer can act in terms of citations, use of force, less lethal use of force, I mean, they would have to be able to demonstrate that. I don't think Chief Jones would be comfortable with somebody who was like a security person that does not have the authority and scope of a law enforcement
Not
officer.
to mention the liability it would put on us. They'd have to be OPATA certified.
And I, just for the committee's knowledge, we made sure that we put out on our website and on our social media sites prior to this happening, that that was going to be happening. So there wouldn't be any surprises for people walking in.
Okay, that's good to know.
But
Thank
any
you.
particular details, I'd be happy to answer in the manner in which our law director.
No, and that's fine. I was thinking the chief would be here, and I was just, I know, chief has already explained it to us. But I just wanted to make sure I was relaying that information correctly, so I thought I would just bring it up
And
again.
I can say that the buildings well, most governmental buildings that I've been in have security, I say security officers, but they're actually the law enforcement from that particular entity, or it's a retired police officer or sheriff's deputy with the correct credentials that gets, maintains their certifications, maintains their weapons training and their weapons certification on an annual basis. So is that possible? Yes. We did have some recent retirees from the police force, and when this proposition was given to them, they said they're still enjoying retirement too much to consider it. So is there an opportunity in the future? Possibly.
And isn't this a recommendation by the federal government because of the rise and because?
Well, I don't know of a federal building you can just walk into
No, I mean,
and wander around.
it's a recommendation from certain federal division, federal agencies to state and local governments, including schools, that they implement best practices.
There is a whole host. Supreme Court has a lot of,
Yeah, best
our
practice.
state Supreme Court has a lot of recommendations. I know for court buildings, which in this case is attached to our police facility. So there is a host of Homeland Security recommendations. that
Yeah,
are-
best practices.
Yes.
So the clarification that it's an assignment.
It's an
not-
assignment.
Yeah, that is far different than if it was an added position.
Correct.
So,
That's explains it well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's why we keep her around.
in part.
Yeah.
Is there anything else for you, Ms. Attorney?
Nope. How about you?
Thank you for asking. I have nothing further, so we will call this
I'm good.
Oh, we
committee
forgot to
meeting.
ask Mr. Weber.
No, I did.
Yeah,
You
I'm
had the floor.
satisfied. Thanks so much. All right.